Hey guys, Rich Lopez with the Drop Time Traditions podcast. Tonight's guest is Mr. Jeff McCormack, an old, longtime friend of mine from Baltimore, Maryland. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well, Rich. How about yourself?
Living the dream. I've been living the dream for 100 years. I
Me
don't
too.
know.
Me too.
Well, yeah, we'll leave the age thing alone here. But
I think
before
I
we get
got you by
into,
a little bit.
yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. Still a good-looking son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Ditto.
hey, um, before we get into it, I want to acknowledge the supporters of the podcast. Many of them actually added three new this week. Stickbow Country Custom Arrows, Traps Feather Rest, Daryl Damron. If you need a feather rest, that's the place to get it, or the guy to get it from. Traditional Bowhunter Magazine, they've been supporting me for as long as they've been in existence. Sauk Trail Archery, stickbowsupplies.com, um, Whiskey City Trad Gear, wctrad.com, Jessie Savage Blacksmith.com, traditionaljunk.com. If you need an old used bow that's in good condition and you know collectible, reach out to Kevin over there. St. Joe River Bow Company, fabulous couple running that place. TheEthicalPredator.com, StickbowHuntsMX.com, of which we recently got reacquainted at the Indianapolis gathering for the PBS. And lastly, the Professional Bowhunter Society and Compton's Traditional Bowhunters. Folks, check those two organizations out. They are incredible. I've been a member since 1978 for the PBS, and a couple of years now with Compton's. I am 100%, 110% committed to them. So check them out. At any rate, Jeff, I was with you a couple of weeks ago. We had a great time together. I was actually surprised that you would want to come on, and I'm glad you are because our personalities work well together with this. And you're such a positive person. That's important. That's a very important thing, especially with traditional archery and maintaining it. So tell us a little background. Where were you born and raised?
Rich, I actually was born, I lived in Baltimore County, but I was born in a hospital, Church Home Hospital in Baltimore City.
Okay.
So I grew up in Baltimore. We call it Baltimore, Baltimore County, Maryland. Sparrows Point. Most of my family was steel workers down out of the steel mill, carpenters, pipe fitters, that type of stuff. So I grew up down there pretty much. As you know, that whole area down there is pretty much surrounded by the Chesapeake Bay. And although it's not an urban area, but it's a metropolitan, well populated area and stuff. But I'm sure there are a lot of sportsmen down in that area.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys that hunt and fish. So that's where I grew up. I graduated from Sparrows Point High School um, back in the day. I'm not embarrassed to say, back in '77. Worked at General Motors for a while, welded for a while, learned to weld, went back to community college, and then in 1984, I was fortunate enough to get hired by the Maryland State Police. Was a trooper for a couple of decades. Fortunate enough to get promoted a few times. Was assistant barrack commander in charge of criminal investigation division. Very proud of my work there. Very proud of the men and women that I worked with. Um, and moved up to Harford County when I got assigned to Bel Air Barrack out of the police academy. And I currently live in Fawn Grove, Pennsylvania, which is just over the line from Maryland, about 2 miles out of Harford County. And Harford County is butts right into the Susquehanna River, splits Harford and Cecil County. So we're just on the western shore here before we go over on the eastern side of the state.
Now, you
And
never arrested me, did you?
I don't think so, but once in a while to this day, still, I see somebody older or back, you know, uh, years ago, I'd get a look in a store and I look and go, I know I locked that guy up. I don't
Yeah.
remember for what, but I recognize him, man. And I got a few of them. Hey, do you remember me? And I said, nah, not really. I don't remember you.
Yeah.
I don't take none of that personal. I told him so.
It's just a
Uh,
job, man.
it's just a job. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a job. It's an important job, but it's just a job. So, anyway, that's my and then when I retired from the Maryland State Police, and I was still a young man in my 40s. I went to work for Harford County government, Harford County, Maryland. And I worked for the county attorney for 16 more years doing administrative investigations and stuff for them.
Wow.
And it was a really nice gig, man. It was 3 days a week for a while. They made me go full time for a while. I pulled back to 3 days a week, and about 3 years and a little bit ago now, I retired.
So what do
I'm
you do in your
looking
spare
at that.
time now that you're retired?
Well,
I mean, you fish. You sent me some fishing pictures, and I'm like, man, I am jealous because here in Florida we got some killer bass fishing,
I
as
know.
you would probably know.
I was there last year, and I would have
Okay.
been there this year again if I didn't have shoulder surgery. I was down, in Headwaters and Stick
Okay.
Marsh, and that region around there. And it was and I've been down to Okeechobee, fished
Hmm.
down there, and we fished. Me and my cousin went and fished on the St. Johns River and stuff
Yeah.
before. So yeah, I like Florida. I like Florida.
The St. John's is about 5 miles from my house,
Oh, there you go. Say, I don't want to
and
say we had a lot of success with it because it's not knowledge wise
it's a
a
big
bit of a
river.
challenge. It is, but we did well in some canals leading into Rodman Reservoir and in Rodman and stuff. So we did pretty
Okay.
well. So we enjoyed it, and it was nice to see the gators and stuff and that.
Do you know that all the years I lived in Maryland and came from New Jersey, I maybe have fished 5 times.
Really,
Yeah, I stink at fishing. And then when I moved to Florida, my middle son Todd taught me all about fishing because he's a captain. He's got a boat,
right?
the whole 9 yards. He says, dude,
Cool.
he goes, how the hell do you spend 60 years hunting but don't fish? I said, because I never had anybody to show me that rope.
Right.
Here, my kid is showing me the rope, which is weird.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and I bass fish, so largemouth, smallmouth, mostly largemouth, and down on the Upper Bay. And a lot of people don't know, but it's really good fishing there. But and I got a bass boat, and
hmm.
just really got into it heavy the last 7 years, but always did it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that maybe later about my Uncle Tom who got me started hunting and fishing.
Oh,
And
yeah, we're going to get into Uncle Tom
so
for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Uncles mean a big deal. I mean, my uncle got me involved in archery when I was probably around 9. I'd go to my grandmother's house. He lived there. He was a single guy, so make ends
right,
meet. He just lived at grandma's house,
yep,
and I'd go up to his upstairs and I'd look in his room and it'd be this bow with all these arrows on this display rack, and I was like, wow, that's cool. Then the American Sportsman, I got him. I started watching that. Here I am sitting in my grandmother's living room, Indian style, watching black and white TV on the console TV. The console must weigh 4,000 pounds, and
yep.
there's a TV in it, and I'm watching this Fred Bear guy. And I'm like, wow, that looks cool. I want to do that. And then so two and two together, I said to my uncle, I said, I want to shoot that bow. And he goes, well, when you can pull it back, you can have it. So, man, I'm 9 years old. I'm doing push ups, everything. You could. And finally, I was about 12 and I could pull it back and hold it for 20 seconds. And he says, it's yours. And then I got my hunter safety course and and the rest is history.
It's really interesting you say that because my uncle was single for quite a while and lived at my grandparents' house still,
Okay.
and he was only 9 years older than me,
Hmm.
so he was my mom's much younger brother.
Yeah.
And uh, I mean, same thing. He had a recurve bow down there, but it is the place in my grandmother's living room where I first saw American Sportsman.
Yeah,
Kirk
buddy.
Gowdy. I can still remember Kirk Gowdy's voice like it was yesterday. Fred Bear coming on, the whole deal. And my uncle had subscribed to Sports Afield,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
think still is a classy magazine. It was really, and man, I just was enthralled with watching that and seeing that and talking and about it. And that's what a little older than you were then when it kicked off for me to get to go. But yeah, that's what started it for me. Because my dad grew up on the Chesapeake Bay in Fort
Right.
Howard and did not hunt and fish.
Okay. So,
So
Jeff, let's go back to Sports Afield. Do you remember reading it back 70s, late 70s, early 80s? There was a writer for them called John Jobson. He wrote a lot about African hunting and stuff like that. He wasn't a bow hunter. He was a
right,
gun hunter, strictly gun
right,
hunter.
right.
He was right there with Jack O'Connor.
It rings a bell. See, Jack O'Connor, I can remember vividly from outdoor life and stuff. And
Yeah.
because Jack O'Connor was a big proponent of the 270 rifle and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Yes, exactly. So, I ended up choosing to go the route of bow hunting, pretty much solely. I remember that and really thrilled at reading that stuff. And the guys, that name rings a bell a little bit, but I don't specifically remember that.
Right. He kind of looked like Tink Nathan. He had the big beard and the
Okay.
handlebar mustache.
Okay.
I would just read, and just his writing. It was the type of writing that would just take you into that world. So you would read it and you would be like, wow, and you're there. You're living it through the writing. And that's the kind of writing I really enjoy.
There was a lot of good writing back then in the magazines and
Yep.
stuff. It wasn't, I seemed like they had a swing, and maybe I'm wrong in my mind of more how to, but the story stuff
Mhm.
um, is what I enjoy. I agree with you. It takes you back, takes you there. You
Yeah,
just,
you lived it. You lived it
yeah,
through their
yep,
their pen.
yep.
Through their pen, actually. Um, so I've known you, God, almost 30 years.
Yeah, if not that long.
Yeah.
It's,
And we are both members of the Baltimore Bowmen, which hosts, folks, by the way, the Baltimore Bowman Traditional Classic is coming up the weekend after Mother's Day. Please attend it, man. I'm flying up for this thing. I'm sleeping in a Subaru Outback, a 2026 Subaru Outback. I mean, third row seating. You could put an elephant in there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to be snug as a bug in a rug, but I want to meet you people. Please come up and say hi. Give me a hug. I don't shake hands, I hug. So I embrace people. I'm going to see you. I know that
you will see me there.
for sure.
I got a
So tell
fishing
me,
tournament. I got a fishing tournament that Sunday, but I'll be there.
okay. So tell me about your involvement with the Baltimore Bowmen. How did that all start?
Well, after I got into the archery bug, and we're going to touch more on that.
Yep.
Um, I'm trying to remember exactly. It might have been a guy from my neighborhood who mentioned about an archery club. What it was I was going down and shooting at the old Sparrows Point Country Club, had a archery range at one time.
Yes, I
And they
remember it.
and they still had some bales remaining, and they didn't care. It wasn't being maintained anymore. But that's where I was going shooting my bow a lot, and I could shoot in my grandmother's yard and stuff too. But you would go out there and get more uh, um, in the woods, what I call practical shooting experience. And so, and even though they have marked off stuff and that, you had an opportunity to stay away from that a little bit and do it. So I was going down there, and then we went down to Wing Bowman, and down on the gunpowder there. Matter of fact, that's where I caught my first bass out there of Dundee Creek with my Uncle Tom, and shooting there a little bit, and then that went, and I wasn't a member actually there, but talk about joining there, and then that club folded up, and in 1983, I want to say Guy George from my neighborhood mentioned it, and I went out and attended a meeting out off Harford Road, and it was a whole big deal then to join. You had to go in, they had to meet you, you had to get up, about yourself, why you were going to join, mandatory work parties and all this stuff. And I went in there and talked and met them, and it was probably about halfway through 1983, and then they agreed, and I joined the club back then. So and then of course meet people in the club and stuff, and become friends with them, go out and shoot and stuff. And then the Bowman back then, that was prior to anything known as 3D targets and all that. But we would, we had, the animal target faces, and then me, and you probably remember Big Charlie Cook. I
Oh
know,
yeah.
I know, I know. We know so-called Little Charlie Cook,
Yeah.
who's a very avid hunter, bow hunter. But Big Charlie, as we called him, got to know him, helping, and I was going out to club helping him with stuff. And we started this with Mike Kelly, who's a member of the club. And Mike was into photography some, and he was taking slide pictures of I brought a bunch of magazines and stuff out. And we were taking pictures of deer. We were shooting them up from a screen, outlining them, drawing them, and painting them all. and they
Oh,
were
wow.
really. I don't know if you were at a club when we were doing that, and then we were banding cardboard together, and so not on the target butts, and we built we had, I think, like 3 tree stands in the woods, with wooden platforms, wooden ladders, and we would paint these up, and they were, I mean, and get them life size on really big cardboard, and it was really nice. This was prior to that 3D target, so people really started coming from these other clubs and
Yeah.
said, "Hey, you need to go to Baltimore Bowhunter to shoot, man. They got a Bowhunter shoot," which we were doing on Tuesday nights, if I remember correct, and we did that for years. Like, we did that for
That
years.
that's it.
Charlie
That's
paint these up,
innovative. Yeah, that's
and then
innovative. Yeah, big
and
time
then
innovative.
and then they came up with, some of the paper ones now that are really, really nice targets, and we started using them. But I'm telling you, the ones we painted up, and we painted up some monster bucks, man, some monster bucks and
Yeah.
other animals, bears and stuff. But
Yeah.
it was more deer than stuff, so it was really nice. And we would get a really sizable turnout, man. And then we had, a get together in the clubhouse afterwards, and
That's
guys would
awesome.
hang. And I mean, we would finish shooting. Guys would hang out till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, drink a couple beers, telling
Yeah.
hunting stories, you know, it was really a lot of camaraderie and stuff.
Yeah,
So
I
it was
miss that.
very enjoyable.
I did it. I was a member of Anne Arundel Archers back in the 80s, up and forever.
Right.
We kind of did the same thing. It really took off there. It had the 3D night. It was Wednesday nights. It wasn't even 3D. It was just targets at first, and then it
Yeah.
became
Right. Right.
3D. And afterwards, we'd all go to the local restaurant and have dinner, peach cobbler, beers, and just we would spend hours just talking about hunting and stuff. It was just, I just miss that because I don't have that here in Florida.
Yeah. We
Everybody
would
lives so far away.
we would get pizzas and other stuff and do
Yeah.
that and have a couple, just laugh, tell stories. And it was really, I shot at Anne Arundel before, by the way,
Mhm.
a few times over the years, and some other places that I probably don't remember what they were, but, Vent Neuf, shot there, shot at various places. But, so, that started that, we did that. And then, the 3D targets came around, and that just continued it on, which really turned it on. And although that might have been the cause of some target panic, as my theory, but because we had all this stuff built up, and if you missed high, low, it was just cardboard or a butt, you weren't looking for your arrow. And next thing you know, if you're having 3Ds, you ain't hitting them, you're looking for your arrows, kind of thing. So I'm not sure if that's really the case, but I really thought that caused some guys to get
I'm
nervous.
not going to disagree.
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was interesting, and I've been a member of the club. The interesting thing is, they almost threw me out the first year.
Oh,
There was
really?
this guy Bill who was the president. I went into the police academy that January,
We're
and
talking
so I
about
had
Bill. Which Bill? Bill
Bill Reimer.
Tomlinson?
No,
Oh,
A guy named Bill
okay.
Reimer, and
Okay.
so I don't know. Um, I don't. I just got the impression, maybe I'm wrong, Bill didn't like the police or the state police or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm in the academy, and you live there in the Maryland State Police Academy. You're just 6 months, you come in on the weekends. So I had helped Charlie. I can't even tell you how many hours. I'd been to 2 official work parties, but when they had other work parties and stuff, then I had some weekends and stuff out of that 26 weeks, four or five weekends I had to spend there. So I didn't make another formal work party, but I had all these hours of doing all this stuff. And Charlie at the meeting stepped up and stood up for me, and the rest of the people said, "No, Jeff stays." But the Bill guy, he wanted me gone, man. So I'm like, man, and Charlie goes, "You know how many hours what he's done here, out here, me and him?" And I don't mean just with setting up the shoot and the painting the targets, but clearing trails, trees, cutting up, just a lot of it that wasn't formal work party stuff. They used to be very rigid about your work parties. You had to get your 3 in your first year, and you had mandatory, I think it was 1 or 2 more for the rest of the time. You had to come every year, and they only did them X number of times. These organized, and it got to be a problem. So when I got to years later, when I got to run that place, we changed it.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember going to the Baltimore Bowman Traditional Classic. I think my first year was like 91, maybe 80. I don't even know what the first year was, but I started doing the artwork for the t-shirts. But I was kind of a loose cannon, and I was asked to never come back.
Were you really?
Yeah,
I never heard that story.
yeah, all right, I'm going to tell it. So there was a guy, I'm going to not name his name. You'll know who I'm talking about because we mentioned him when we got together in Baltimore. Uh, they came up to me and said, "Look, we don't want you to ever come back here again." So I was like, "Okay, good luck with that." So I kept doing the T-shirt art. I said, "How can you tell me not to come back, but I keep donating T-shirt art?" So yeah, and I finally hit the wall a couple of years ago, and I said, "Man, I feel I'm getting old." So I toned down myself, if you will, and I go to bed now every night at 9:30. So so yeah.
I'm a 10 o'clock kind of guy anymore.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I watch
Okay.
whatever I watch. I mean, I got to watch the Orioles game until it ends, and then I go to bed.
Right.
Um, I, it's just hilarious. I was like, "Don't ever come back." I was like, "Okay, okay, good luck with that." And then
Well,
then they gave
that
me a life
probably wasn't a
member.
guy, that probably wasn't a guy that didn't have the authority to even say that. So
No, not at all.
you're
And
right.
but now I'm a life member. So how to
There
yeah
you go.
yeah here you go.
Yep.
So there you go. Anyway, um, let me change gears a little bit. So with the Baltimore Bowmen. What offices have you held besides being a member?
Well, for they actually created a position years ago and called me the target chairman. I really didn't want to be the field captain. We had some guys there. We had a guy, Mike Reimer, and this guy could fix, repair. I don't know what he was in some skilled trade thing. I don't know if he was a millwright down the steel mill or not, but he could fix, repair, do anything kind of stuff, you know.
Right.
And then I think Charlie Cook was Big Charlie was the field captain one time. Bill Tomlinson, and I just was so into the target setup and stuff, and trying to make it as realistic and do that they made me the target chairman. So um, I would select go in. I mean, I got feedback from guys what 3Ds we wanted, keep a variety, and I was in charge of setting up the courses for. Man, Rich, I really don't know how many years that even the 3D when for a little while there we gave Jerry DeWeese a few bucks and he had
Mhm.
retired and to set it up, and then when he couldn't do that no more, uh, time constraints, I was doing it. I wasn't charging anything to do it, and it got to be a little much at times because it was so much work,
Yeah,
and
it
then
is. I mean,
we had guys.
I've shot those courses, and it's like, how the hell do these guys do it?
Yeah, well, hey, I've set them courses up. Believe it or not, the one year I took the entire traditional shoot down myself. Was there in the dark hours later, taking
Wow.
stuff up. But that gets into little different things. So I did that for years, set the courses up. Then they uh, elected me president. Somebody nominated me, meeting thing, and I was like, would you do it? And I went. And the club was a little bit, we were a little bit struggling then. Membership had
Mhm.
dropped off. We had some disgruntled people. I thought we were taking a hard line with people. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I probably was president for, I think 8 years. It was a long time. It
Yeah.
was a long time president of doing that. And I continued to be the target guy and coordinate that and stuff. So the good thing was when I got to be president, I said, "Hey, look, this mandatory work party and stuff thing, it's not happening. We're throwing members out. We're losing people. We got I don't name. We had a few grouchy old guys in there,
Yeah.
mistreating, talking wrong to people, and making a mountain out of a molehill." And I said, "Look, no, this is not how we're going to do this." And I was you know, I mean, I'd been a first level, second level, and then assistant commander, state police. And I said, that's not how we're going to do this here, guys. Okay. So I come up with the idea we're gonna reward people. We're not going to have mandatory. We're going to reward people for coming and working the traditional shooting stuff. So we're gonna have a feast. We're going to come out. We got the pavilion, the table, we
Oh
got the
yeah.
clubhouse, and then Jerry Deweese said, "Hey, how about we do a crab feast, and I'll be in charge of getting the crabs."
Hmm.
And Rich, I mean, you talk about a hit with guys.
Oh
Guys have
yeah.
come out and work. Guys would come out and work all 3 days, take it down, work before. Hey, what can I do? We ended up having so much help. It
Yep.
was such a pleasure of guys working and stuff because, hey, I want to go to the crab feast.
Let me tell
And
you,
so,
dude, since moving to Florida, I have not had good crabs. Okay.
yeah, I can
So,
believe that.
you know, anytime if you're throwing a crab feast, I'm gonna fly. I'll spend the $250 to fly up and eat it because that's how much tickets are now with the gas prices. But whatever, you know.
Well, I can tell you it's a big hit, and they do it still. And
Yep.
it wasn't just crabs. We had salads. We had
Sure.
treats. We had fried chicken.
Mm.
And people, and then the guys sit there together that did all the work and stuff. And this turned into guys. We couldn't get guys to help Bill in the kitchen, which we've since outsourced a portion of that. We couldn't get people to help at registration. We were scrambling, and Target setup was, like I said, I had the one year I'm pulling these down myself, man. It was like you're kidding me. So, and
It's a lot of work.
that's a monumental task, honestly, man. You're talking about hours and hours of work and picking them up. So, and the size of the targets of someone we have now. It was
Oh my
so
God.
that was a big hit. That really turned the club around. And then we had it just got so many active people and stuff. And then the membership grew so much. And now they just do a volunteer thing. They put something out, hey, we got a work party, and
Yeah.
they get plenty of help and
Yeah.
stuff. So it
I
was a
so
really
miss
good.
living there because I really love that club. I am a life member. Actually, I'm a life member because of you. So thank you.
Yeah, hey, you're welcome. I mean, we come up with the life membership thing. Guy's been paying dues for 30 years and stuff. Hey, life member. I got my paperwork. They sent it to me recently. I thought it interesting and put it in there. When you since have been a member, and I had filled that out. 1983.
Right.
So been a member since 1983. So
I'm gonna send the club a suggestion that to maybe make a life member T-shirt, just life member, Baltimore Bowman logo, something on the back. I'll even do the artwork.
that would be
Just,
nice. Well,
yeah.
it's always been certainly by me and other people.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
Gary and other people in the club. We've always really, really appreciated you doing the artwork. I mean, you've done just some fabulous artwork for us, and it's
I'm starting
and
to
it's on
notice though.
t-shirts.
I've
They do.
started to notice that I'm getting a little shaky in my,
Are
yeah,
you
yeah, a
okay?
little bit. So the next T-shirt should be labeled, Parkinson's. Parkinson's BBTC T-shirt. Uh, I don't. No, I'm
I
just
got a
kidding.
big collection of them. I'm sure you do too.
I
So,
do. I do. My wife goes, "Hey, your middle drawer, your dresser is all BBTC T-shirts, and I don't wear them because I don't
right.
want. Because when I eat now as a senior citizen, I'm everything's everywhere, so I do not want to stain them. So I only wear them when we go out. Sunday, go to meetings. I wear the BBTC T-shirts, and people they come up to me and ask me, "Hey, that's cool artwork. Who did it? What is it?" And I'm here in Florida, and people are like, "Oh, you're that guy."
That's the other thing we did. If people were working a classic and they're putting in 8 hours of work time, they get a free T-shirt as well
Yeah.
to go along with it. To go along with the crab feast.
Yeah. I
So
can I'm so looking forward to being there in what, 4 weeks?
not long.
Not even 3 weeks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so now I live further away, and so
Okay.
I remained president for that for another couple years, and then I talked John Bogdan, longtime member and good guy,
Great
uh,
guy.
great guy, surveyor by trade, retired from that, and I got John to be the president, and he's doing and then Augie Gray's boy Andrew Gray, and
Hmm.
he's a younger guy, so the social media, they're doing a bang up job. So
Yeah, they
honestly, I
are.
haven't helped set the courses up or anything for the last several years here. And I got a little carried away with the bass fishing and
Gee,
the
that's a
tournament
tough
tournament
problem to
thing and
have.
stuff. And the tournament thing, and we're not big tournament fishing. I fish with my cousin, but the tackle shop that we go to, Susquehanna Fish and Tackle, up north of here in PA along the
Yeah,
Susquehanna
I'm
River.
familiar with it. Have you
Yeah,
ever
it's a
fished
great.
with Ronnie Broadwater?
I've never fished with Ronnie. I know Ronnie was a hardcore bass
Hardcore.
fisherman, but
Yeah.
I never hunted or fished with Ronnie Broadwater. But I think he was a reservoir guy,
Hmm.
big reservoir guy.
That's awesome.
If I'm not mistaken. So, which requires a special, the boat to be inspected, not use other places, electric motor and stuff. I got a
Right.
go fast bass boat, and the Upper Bay is just it's really good fishing. So that's Baltimore Bowman, and the shoot, and we prided ourselves, and I prided ourselves on target setup. And I went to Denton Hill for many many years, and I
Oh
haven't been for
yeah.
several years now, and no, our target setup and stuff is the best I've ever been to anywhere. And
Yeah.
the quality of our targets, the Reinhardts and the big ones and the stuff and the setup. So if people are interested in coming, not just a friendly atmosphere and
Dude.
vendors and stuff here, but if they enjoy shooting their bow and shooting 3Ds, it is the finest. They will not find a finer 3D setup. It's the finest I've
Absolutely.
been to. I'm sure somewhere else in the country does as
I
good a job.
agree.
Hard to find on the
110%.
East Coast. Yeah.
I've got actually I have two bear takedowns. We're talking $1,500 a pop
Yeah.
at two of my buddies' houses. So if I can't reach one, I'll get the other.
There
So
you go.
when I ride, I'm flying into Baltimore, getting my rental car. When I show up in Baltimore, my bow will be there. I will be shooting 3D in
There you
Baltimore.
go. I'm
People,
not sure I'll be shooting yet, Rich. I had shoulder surgery in November. I'm not cut
well,
loose yet for that.
that's
So
okay. That's okay, brother.
I'll be there.
People, you need to check this out. The Baltimore Bowman Traditional Classic is badass. It's like the mini Denton Hill, in my opinion. I mean,
With
I
better target setup.
I've been doing this thing for almost over 35 years, and it had its ups, it had its downs, but I've never had a bad time. Um, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, this year I'm doing things a little differently. I always, at my age, to do things alternative, why not? I live dangerously and I live large.
Good
So,
for you.
well, Jeff, you know that about me.
That's right.
So the BBTC, as it's called, I will be promoting it in diligently in the next couple of weeks. So, people that follow me on social media, it'll be ad nauseum. I will be pounding it down your throat. I want you all to come. So please do.
It's hard to believe that just a few miles outside the Baltimore city line, there's and it's on this. It used to be
Yeah,
city property, and they sold it to the county, and now it's state property. It's hard to believe that back in there along the gunpowder, it's a beautiful. I mean,
just
particularly the
beautiful.
one side of woods is beautiful, beautiful hardwood. Uh, creek bottom, just
Hmm.
up and down, hills and stuff. Really not really nice. Yeah. I've always been really proud to be a member of the club and
That's awesome.
one of the real good decisions of my life joining that years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jeff. Uh, yeah, I can only say that I think it's, uh, if I was going to say I have a dream or any kind of a fantasy of beauty, the woods there, that's where it is for me. It's just an incredible place. I mean, I've camped there, I've shot in there, I've just wandered the woods for almost 40 years.
And
And
it's
it's just
loaded with
like,
deer,
yes, ton
real
of
deer.
deer. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
And they get big deer. I mean, I remember seeing a monster 10 pointer out in the field, way out. Yeah, I'm sitting there
yep.
shooting the practice targets. I'm like, what the hell is that? And there's a monster 10 pointer suckers, like 150, 160 class. But yeah, when it comes hunting season, guess what? He ain't around.
No, he ain't around. There's a lot of deer in there though.
Yeah, great
A lot of deer
stuff.
in there are protected and stuff, and it's yeah. Joining property, they were doing a little hunting. I don't know if they still are. That gentleman passed away, and his wife, I think she sold the property. He had that business with
Yeah,
the spotter pots and stuff.
that's what
So
happens.
yeah,
But I mean,
Rick.
people that are going to attend, I will say, I will plug this without anybody's permission. Down the road from the archery range is a place called the Soda Pop Shop. It's run by a
Yep.
young couple. They are so cool. They will make you anything you want. They have a menu, but dude, if you want to all deviate, they will do whatever you want. And the wife, she sees me every year for the last couple of years. She's like, "Oh, there you are, Florida boy." Man, I just emailed her today and told her what I want. So all my food will be ready when I get
That's
there.
great. They
That's
got good
crazy.
food,
That's
Rich.
crazy, dude.
Rich, I've stopped there many times after shooting there, and
Yeah.
go up and get a sub or something. Yeah, they got good food. They
So
got
my
good
Thursday
seafood,
night dinner
flying
is going to be a
shrimp and stuff.
crab cake sub, buddy.
Yeah,
Woo!
yeah, I know. Good stuff.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. And but it's great. Anyway, Baltimore Bowman Traditional Classic, the weekend after Mother's Day. People, please attend. Uh, support them because I'm going to be there. I'm going to support them. Actually, I will be podcasting from that shoot because I'm going to be in people's faces like a disease. So that's how it works.
That's good. It's good. Glad to hear that.
So let's switch gears again.
Yes,
I told you we were going to switch gears.
let's do it.
So let's talk about hobbies. What's your other hobbies outside of bow hunting?
Boy, you asked me what I do since I retired. Well, I left the little poster things around places at work when I was leaving. Had a picture of me at the gym, had a picture of me holding a big bass up, and had a picture of me behind a large set of antlers. I said, I either be at the gym, I'll be fishing, or I'll be hunting. Not a hobby. My main priority would be my family.
Right.
But outside of that, when it comes to me personally, my hobbies, that's it. I'm a gym rat. And honestly, I'm motivated going to the gym for my hunting and fishing. And so I'm
You
able to
have
keep
to.
doing that and stuff. And I
Yeah.
did a lot of out west, elk hunting in the mountains and stuff. And
Mhm.
you gotta keep yourself in shape. Plus,
Yeah.
you want to drag in big bucks out, Rich. You gotta be in shape. Although my buddy Gene Wenzel told me he once he got older, he started using the buddy system. I said, "What's that?" He said, "I get a buddy to do it for me." So
Well, that's funny you say that because um, at my age, you and I are about a year apart. So I'm 66, you're 67.
I'll
I
be
would
67. Yep, next
Okay.
month. Yep.
So I'll be 66 in August. And I haven't dragged a big buck out in a couple of years. But the last big buck I shot, I had a broken foot. And it took me 3 hours. I was, something, the adrenaline is
Yep.
jacked. I'm jacked. So like I was Arnold Schwarzenegger. And
Yep.
I'm dragging that bastard through the woods. I'm gonna get this to my truck. I'm gonna get this to my truck. Took me 3 hours, which really, with a good foot, would have taken me 45 minutes,
Right.
if that. But I would drag it 10 feet, stop. 10 feet, stop. 10 feet, stop. But adrenaline kept me going. And I actually humped this thing onto the back of my hitch hauler. And this thing was so big. It dressed out at 237.
That's big.
That's an Eastern Shore buck. Okay.
Yep. And there go some big
And
ones.
so we get it home. I get it on the hoist and I haul it up. It's in the garage. So I'm going to take it over to the butcher and to the taxidermist. My wife goes, I go to my wife and say, hey, Lisa, I need your help to get this back on the hitch hauler. Man, I'll tell you what, because the adrenaline was no longer
It was
involved.
gone.
It was gone. It took us every ounce of our fiber to get it maybe 12 inches off the ground onto the hitch hauler, her wearing a muumuu, and me in my pajamas. I wish somebody would have taken a picture of that.
I tip my hat to your wife.
Yeah, my wife is awesome, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Whenever I shoot a deer, it's an event at the household here. She will wait for me to bring it in, and I will quarter it in the garage. Even here in Florida, I quarter it, and I bring in the meat, and it's always clean. It's never really bloody. I clean everything up before I get it to her. She debones it and separates the meat into the parcels that they need to be in the kitchen while we're drinking Jameson and having beer. So if I shoot two does, the second doe is left for the next day because, it's not a good thing.
Hey, that sounds like an event, a party.
It's a partnership. That's what it is.
That is a partnership.
She doesn't hunt anymore. Well, she
I
actually
get mine
hunted.
butchered anymore, Rich.
No?
I've cut them up many times myself, but anymore I'm like, I'm getting them butchered.
Oh,
But
with
I
you,
had some
brother.
help dragging. I had some help dragging one out last year, and I actually sent you a picture of that deer.
Mm-hmm.
He had short brows on him, and a buddy of mine, Ryan McDowell, helped me drag it out because I was pretty proud of that deer. I killed that deer. I had two full thickness tears in my rotator cuff. My labrum was torn in two spots. My upper bicep tendon on that right arm was on my drawing hand was 90% tore loose.
Oof.
I had bone spurs, calcium deposits, and my AC joint had a bad impingement in there. They had to take bone out of my AC joint. And I was hunting and had no idea if I could even pull the bow back. And I had a 51-pound bow with me. And he came up, and like you said, adrenaline's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it is.
Came back, picked my spot, it it was about 25, 26 yards, something like that, to 25-yard range, and made a good shot on him. But it did call my buddy, and he was more than happy to come help me drag him out, because it was going to be all left-handed dragging with that, man. The doctor, I said that he didn't think it was a good idea to even be climbing a tree. And then when I told him the story and his PA, they were just shaking their head about pulling the bow back. I said, I figured if the shoulder's already tore up, you're going to do surgery here coming up in December. Because I told him we're going to have to wait a little while for this surgery. He goes, why is that? I said, the rut. He looked at me, what are you talking about?
What's that? Yeah.
This wasn't my buddy orthopedic surgeon. This was another one, And he goes, what's that? I said, the deer breeding season. I said, I'll be in a tree tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I cannot go. The rut to me is as important as my anniversary.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, guys, and you guys know this. It's one of those things, us as bow hunters, that we live and breathe for. We love our wives, we love our family, but they know the rut is what drives us as individuals, as hunters. Now, what's funny, I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to basically throw all my kids under the bus. Every one of my kids got married in the first week in November. Thank you.
They were getting you back, Rich, for something. I'm not sure what that was, but they were getting you back.
Yeah, they were. They were.
My daughter, the one that's married, she got married November the 2nd. And my children were born my biological children were born in April and June, and that's not by mistake.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, why? Did I do something wrong? I asked them questions. They're like, well, just the way it worked out. I'm like, that's stupid. Because I know you guys as sons never had a say in this because you're whipped. And your wives had something to say about that. So that's, it is what it is. Thank God they're married. Everybody's done. See ya. If you get remarried, good luck, because I'm not going to be there. Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. So, any rate, let's get back to bow hunting. What are some of your most memorable hunts? Because you sent me pictures and you've killed some monster bucks, and you've been abroad. So talk to us.
Yeah, boy, there's so many of them that stand out, and it would be for different reasons. My first big buck, and we'll get into this when we talk about heroes later. My first big buck I killed in 1983 at Tuckahoe State Park. As you know, Queen Anne's County, I'm sure, being an Eastern Shore guy, and on public ground. And it was not a mistake that deer was killed after I read, reread, and reread 8, 10, 12 times Gene Wenzel's book that wasn't hunting rutting whitetails, that he reworded it so he could sell it to everybody. I have the original bow hunting rutting whitetails. It's all highlighted up and everything. I wish I would have remembered to take it to the PBS bank, would have Gene sign it. But I might have to mail that off for him to do that, or maybe I'll go visit him in Montana this year. But because Mike Mitten had it there, bow hunting rutting whitetails, and he brought it there for Gene to sign. But mine's all highlighted all over. It was a paperback.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at it. So, it's in my library.
So, that was quite memorable. And I had a guy that was, I think Rick was about 4 years older than me, and we had been shooting together and doing that deal. And then, he was working, and I was laid off at the time and was going down. Yep. Well, and there was one that came out before that said hunting rutting whitetails.
Right. He changed the title.
Bow hunting rutting whitetails. And I think that was only available on paperback. I got that one too, though, reordered and got the new one out and stuff. So, that was really memorable. Talk about exciting and stuff. And
check it out, man.
Yep. There you
Signed.
go. Yep. So, boy, my first elk. My first elk in '89 was a guy from Archery Club, Larry, and invited me out. He had a cousin out there, and he had been going out, and he had never killed an elk yet, but they were going bow hunting. And a buddy of mine, that he became a friend of mine now, stay in touch with him out in Bozeman, uh, Dan Porter, originally from Perry Hall, Baltimore County, and then lived up in Powellsville in Harford County, and was a 12-day hunt. Before I went, I got a thorn from kneeling down in the woods practicing shooting kneeling, and it festered up and got infected.
Oh,
And I
wow.
went to the doctor and I went, oh my God, my knee was literally, my whole knee was hurting. I'm going, I'm going on this elk hunt, like, so put me on antibiotics. That caused some intestinal disturbance, almost the entire hunt that I didn't
Yeah.
realize back then
Yeah.
was from the antibiotics. My sleeping bag that I was asking my buddy about, he goes, I guess you're okay. Some hollow fill bag was like cheesecloth. I froze the whole time at night. I mean, froze. It was freezing every night. We we covered so much ground, and I was just worn down from not being able to sleep, not eating, keeping
Yeah.
food down, well, eating enough, was beating,
Not
trudging
good.
along. And so Larry killed a bull. And then I'd had it, man. I mean, I was spent. I was in good shape. I mean, and I lost 12. After eating like heavy for 3 days, I was still 12 pounds lighter. I was down to
Ooh.
like getting down to like high school weight stuff,
Yeah.
like, and
Without wanting to. Right. Yeah.
I literally lost muscle mass and stuff from what was going on. I would have just stopped the antibiotics. I didn't know. So, not a treat, to be in the mountains and have diarrhea for
Oh,
like
no.
8, 10 straight days,
I've been there. Yep.
Good, man. So anyway, and then so Danny said, oh no, we're going in the morning. And we went out from his house and went down the canyon, Gallatin Canyon, and at 11:30 on the 12th day, with a, and you'll know this name, with a loner bow, and cedar shafts. I killed a 5x5 bull at 11:30 on the 12th day, completely worn down. And that bow was loaned to me. It was a 67-pound bighorn that was loaned to me by Burgess Blevins.
Oh, Burgess. Oh, God rest his
So
soul. God bless him.
yes,
R.I.P., brother. I'm
yep,
friends with his
yeah,
daughter.
prince
And
of a guy, wasn't he?
oh, what a guy, man. Dude, that guy he killed, before he passed away, he killed a monster, non typical
You know how
in
old that deer
Maryland.
was he killed? That deer was like 9 years old or something. He
Yeah,
killed
it
it.
was
And
huge.
he had been
Old.
hunting that deer for years. And when he sent me a picture when he killed that, he was so excited. That was a really old deer. But I met Burgess up at Harrisburg at the outdoor show at the
Hmm.
Bighorn booth,
Yeah.
and Fred Asbell. And we got to talking. And then I had a bighorn. And we'll give you a story later that about when we talk about heroes. And um, my bow broke. I mean, the riser, the laminates used to come right into the grip,
Right.
right into the shelf, I should say. And instead of curving in there, they came at a direct angle,
And then boom.
and it's separated there. And I was honest with Fred when I talked to him and said, Fred, I'm not going to say it hasn't had a lot of use. I've tried to think of how many arrows. I said, I shoot this bow about, and I said, I don't want to exaggerate, Fred, probably 350 days a year, 150 arrows a time or more times. I said I probably shot close to 400,000 to 500,000 arrows in this bow, but it broke, and I had another recurve that I didn't I did I, it was Rocky Miller from Bozeman. It was a heritage bow, and I just did not like it. The grip was different. The bow was more weight. I just didn't have the confidence to feel with that. So after meeting Burgess, and he said, no, I got like 6 of them. I looked them up in the phone book. Back then there were no cell phones and stuff. We
Yeah.
had, in '89. I looked him up in the phone book, found him. He was a freelance photographer. He lived in some penthouse apartment down in Baltimore City, condo apartment thing, really nice anyway. And Burgess, do you know where I can lay my hands on one? Because I had talked to Fred Asbell. Well, we can't get you one, Jeff, but I am willing to make you a deal. I said, Fred, honestly, it's just one of those things. And Burgess said, hey, I won't sell you. I don't know where you can get one, and I won't sell you one, but I'll loan you one. And so he loaned me that
Yeah,
bow.
he was that kind of guy.
He loaned me that bow. I took it to Montana and killed that 5x5 bull on the 12th day. And then I came home and killed my first. I say Pope and Young. I didn't enter the thing, but it scored 127 and change. And then I killed a
Okay.
typical 5x5 with a couple kickers on it. And Burgess went, I never killed a thing with that bow. He goes, and he had been elk hunting for a good while and had never killed an elk. And he was really excited for me.
Yeah, Burgess was
What a great hunt.
he was a
And that
special
was, that
guy.
was a,
Yeah.
that was a really special hunt because of that, with Burgess being gone now. And I think about Burgess, particularly during hunting season and stuff.
I'm going to share that with his daughter because she follows me like crazy on
Yeah.
Facebook and she supports me. So I'm going to send her our link. By the way, folks, this episode will not post until next week. I'm a week ahead of things because I don't know what's going to happen week to week, but I'm always banking podcasts. So at any rate,
But
yeah,
Burgess was a prince of a guy.
yeah, he
And
was.
and counted him as a friend. And he got, he was always excited when, I sent him a photo of a big buck I killed or something. And Burgess was just and he was an artist with a
Oh
camera.
yeah,
And I mean,
yeah,
an artist. I mean,
yeah,
he took photographs. And when he passed away, he was in the process of taking the Big Ten in Montana for them, because he was dating that woman that was part Native American, and she had a place on a reservation and stuff, and a nice place. And Burgess was taking photos that he would send them me, mountain lion, elk, and they looked like paintings. I mean, the guy was a magician.
yeah.
He was an artist, not a magician. He was an artist with a camera. It was, I don't know
Mhm.
how, and he used to do a lot of that stuff, field and stream, these things, instant mashed potatoes blowing and pheasant hunting for ammunition for Remington. And, that all went the wayside with digital stuff and computers and stuff. But
Yeah.
he set all that up, and it was just impressive. And he was just a really,
Even his field photos that he took of himself were amazing. I was like,
yeah,
wow, the
yeah.
sunlight, everything was perfect. I was like,
And
wow, that
I miss Burgess. And
yeah. I miss a lot
I,
of people. I
I
mean,
miss
there's a
the,
lot of our friends that
yeah.
have passed away.
I missed the fact, Rich, that, I just felt like, there was not some service thing that I knew about and I asked with, and it didn't, get to say goodbye, but say goodbye, but, they live on with us. So, I think of Burgess and hunting season and him, and I mean, who's going to loan you? Who's going to loan you their custom recurve, man? You know
Dude,
what I
I
mean?
mean, these people are with us every day. I feel people around me. I really do. I mean, you know me with my history, my archery history, and all that. And
Yep.
I feel that some of my mentors that have gone on to the good life, they're still here with me. They are with me every day. I'm blessed. Uh, Even my wife goes, she's, how do you do all this? How do you do the work? Full time job, the archery thing. I said, I do it because I love everything about it. And these people are in my life every day. Uh, it's this thing. I'm a very spiritual person. You would not have known that about me 20 years ago, but however, I am.
I
Uh,
am as well.
yeah. And I believe that right around me today, Glenn St. Charles, Al Reeder, everybody right around us, they're here with me right now. I believe this only because it's just, it's a thing, and it is what it is. So anyway, let me change gears again because I told you I would. Are you a two-season hunter? Do you use gun or bow? Or
You know, I'm not Rich, and
okay,
I don't want people to get the wrong impression either, because I think over the years, and we could talk about regrets, and I regret that I didn't, and I've talked to Gene about this before. Bow hunters are kind of solitary by nature and stuff, and I
Mhm.
get so locked in to focused of what I'm doing for the challenge and stuff of it all, and
Right.
competing with myself.
Mhm.
It's not competing with the animals or with somebody else, but competing against yourself. So I'm competitive and expect a lot and want to do well. That I haven't shared more time with other people and doing, and I missed some opportunities and stuff. So two season for me is honestly when I started with my Uncle Tom, and we'll talk a little more. I'll talk about him more in Heroes, but he
Let's talk
helped
about
me.
him now.
Okay, I will talk about Uncle Tom
Yeah.
now. So Uncle Tom was my mom's little brother, 9 years older than me. Um, and at the risk of getting emotional, because I'm a very emotional guy about family, and I just had a cousin
Mhm.
pass away that was a year older
I'm
than me.
sorry.
Grew up,
Yep.
yeah, thank you. That I grew up around and saw every single week growing up, and he was when I say prince of a guy, and I get that from a guy I knew in the state police, and he would say that about these guys. They were just really great guys. They say he's a prince of a guy. My cousin was. It was an ordained minister, just a prince of a guy. So my Uncle Tom was only 9 years my senior. So he was 6 years older than my older brother. Um, and it was almost like a hybrid thing. He was my uncle, great respect for him, bright guy, pipe fitter by trade, uh, big man. I could tell you stories about us having a few beers one night and had a 73 Chevy Nova with the air shocks and all
Mm.
that. And him asking this guy who was in the hot rods, could he pick a Hemi? He knew where he could pick a Hemi up. And this guy Chucky was drunk, and he says, "Man, you can't pick a Hemi up. You know how much a Hemi weighs? You know what a Hemi weighs? You can't pick a Hemi up." And he goes, "You could pick a Hemi up. You could pick that car up." So my Uncle Tom turned around backwards, facing away from the rear bumper, and grabbed both things in the bumper, right? Chrome bumper. They cut into his fingers by thing and stuff creases, and lifted both rear wheels about 3 inches off the ground. And Chucky Berry was sitting there drunk, going, "No way, man! He didn't lift that up, did he?" But he was about 6'2", 220 pound, never
Yeah.
been in a scuffle in his life, gentle giant, but nice guy, just you know,
There are
and
those
he was
guys.
and
Yeah.
he was a fun-loving jokester, really wonderful to all his nieces and nephews. And he would take us as kids down a little, you know, creek off the Chesapeake Bay, Shells Pier fishing, and then actually his brother-in-law got him hunting small game, pheasants, rabbit, squirrel, and my mom, for some reason, didn't grow up with any guns in the house and want guns. My dad's brother, my Uncle Jack, who was another great guy who passed away at 49 years old. Uncle Jack did some hunting and wanted my dad to go. And my mom was just really opposed, whatever. And my dad's heart, really wouldn't have been my dad's thing. But anyway, I can remember I was 15 and Uncle Tom came down and sat down with my mom and dad, and I walked out. And he talked to them about me going hunting with him and me getting a shotgun. And, that was kind of the start of it. And I want to say I was 15 years old then. And my mom said, "Okay, Tom, you're going to teach him gun safety and all this." And we shot clay birds. We had a place down in the North Point area. We could go back in this field, thousands and thousands of rounds, got really to be a really good shot with a shotgun. And just and that got to be the bass fishing, it rowing a boat out and doing
Yeah.
that. We started that, and I just and I miss it. We did pheasant, and we got to Westminster, Carroll County, and I just to get a pheasant, man, to get an opportunity,
Good
and
luck
then
seeing one now.
you're right, and then and I'd lie, I would, and that's another thing about the bow hunt. You miss a little bit when you're that much into it about some of that things. I'd like to go to South Dakota to do something. I'd like to have a
Sure.
buddy who says, "Hey, let's go
Well,
wing
let's go, brother.
I would do
Let's
it with
go.
you, man. I
Let's
would
do it.
absolutely do it with you. So the wing shooting, we got in a club foul, but we went deer hunting. So we're going to go deer hunting. So we got to Western Maryland. We got Swallow Falls. Oh man, it was the Orange Army, as you know,
Yeah.
on public ground. And my cousin ended up shooting a little, 6-point buck. We were excited, year and a half old. But I mean, I literally at one point heard a bullet. Pew! I went, whoa. And so we did that a couple years, but we got into, my uncle had the bow, and then I actually literally told Uncle Tom he had a recurve. "No, Uncle Tom, you got to get this compounds bow. This is the thing." I'm reading all about it, and I got me a Bear Kodiak with the hanger brackets.
Oh yeah.
So it was simple front sight, fingers, and that's what I started with.
Mhm.
And then me and him together got a Jennings Shooting Star.
Mm.
Okay.
Great bow.
And again, simple finger bow, flipper rest thing. And so we got to doing that bow hunting, and I loved right away when we did it. We were going down to Tuckahoe State Park. We saw nobody bow hunting, Rich. 19, uh, um, you know, 77,
Oh yeah,
78,
yeah.
78, nobody. Then we joined some of his buddies from the steel mill, got a club together in Queen Anne's County. Then we joined a club. We had property. We went there and we goose hunted. We goose, duck, and then we gun hunted. And I gun hunted then too, shotgun, and then kill a deer. And it just seemed, because of that circumstance, how it's kind of helter skelter. And it seemed there was a lot of luck involved. You know what I mean? There were so many things you couldn't control. But when I went bow hunting, I felt like I'm in control of picking my spot wherever I want to go, nobody around, stuff. So I think quite possibly, and I just had this conversation with a friend. I think quite possibly I'd have been born out west. I might have been a 2-season hunter the whole time. I don't know that for sure because the bow hunting, the closeness, the thing, it just was a huge, huge turn on. So I finally killed a deer, and I think my first deer with a bow was a button buck.
Okay.
And I killed it at Jennings, and then I killed a big buck in Tuckahoe State Park with that bow.
Yeah, my first deer was a button buck. It was just a little thing. I couldn't tell from 50 yards away. I was like, what is
Hey,
this?
I shot it with a bow, and I didn't know because the excitement kick in. I mean, I could hit a paper plate we would put up at 50 yards. Then I just shot all the time, every time, right? And I had deer walk out at 20 yards, and I had the whole quiver of arrow sticking in the ground. And then I realized my uncle said to me, "What pin did you use?" I went,
"Oh God,
I remember I never even saw a pin. I never even saw a pin."
Nah, exactly.
So then I killed that big buck down in Tuckahoe, and there were 2 boys down there. And they actually helped me drag that, 2 young guys, and they actually helped me drag that deer out. And their dad had taken them hunting, and their dad had passed away the year before. And they were so excited for me. I told you, they were jumping up and down like crazy. Dad said there were big bucks in here. Look at it. They were so excited for me and about their dad as if they would have killed. They went to the check station and everything with me, man. And the deer was like 5.5 inches at the bases and dressed like 187 pounds or something. And
that's big.
And, they were just, and
it was huge. It was huge for them because they lived vicariously.
It was a mature buck, no fully, mature buck. I mean, you can see to this day, looking at it in the pictures, it was a fully mature whitetail. I mean, it was probably looking at it, looking back at what I know now, is probably a 5.5-year-old type whitetail.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
your uncle was a major.
I'm not really a 2-season guy. I'm not opposed to that, Rich. You know what I mean? I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
Listen, we control deer numbers and stuff. Firearms are going to control numbers where they need to be controlled. It doesn't, and I'm not saying I haven't shot a few with I got a muzzle loader. I ended up buying an inline muzzle loader. I would see wounded deer in gun season. I'd have my bow, and I couldn't do nothing. I couldn't get shot. Couldn't do nothing about it. And that was the first thing I did that. But it doesn't do. I don't. And then again, this is just a personal thing. It doesn't do anything for me to rest a gun on my hand or something with a crosshair, squeeze the trigger. It's not my thing. But I understand the guys love it and do it, and it's thing. And I'm good with that. I'm good with them doing that. So not really a 2-season guy, but if I had what I really would love to do, and I mentioned to you, I'd love to do some wing shooting and stuff again. I've done very, very little of it. I could goose hunt out my backyard field here that my stepson that own and do that.
So I want to go back to your uncle only because my nephew, God rest his soul, he passed away very young. He was only 48.
Yeah.
I remember I was his mentor. Okay. And we are mentees, mentors, whatever you want to call it. He was my one and only nephew that just loved what I did with bow hunting. He just in the 70s and 80s, he'd be like, "Man, you're awesome." He'd be just a kid in the backyard being attacked by crows. And I'd come out with my bow and just wing shoot these son of a bitches, kill them. He's like, "Oh my God, you're like amazing." Yeah. So I said, "All right, Thanksgiving comes." I said, I'm taking you grouse hunting." He goes, really? So we pile in my 66 Volkswagen, which was a piece of crap, and we drive an hour and a half. And this is when I was living in New Jersey. Hour and a half, we get to Jersey. We get out of the woods. I got my 870 Wingmaster. I got him. I said, "You're my bird dog. I need you to just push about 10 yards ahead of me and see if we could flush something." We flush a grouse, and then from the hip, I kill this thing. He just looks at me. He's like, "Oh my God, that's badass, man." So we grab the grouse. We drive another hour and a half back to the house at mom's house. Thanksgiving dinner. I said, "Guess what? We're having grouse for dinner with the turkey." My mother is like mortified. She's looking at me, and my nephew's like, "Oh no, we have to eat this." And so we cooked it, and it was better than the turkey.
Yeah, grouse is good. It's good eating.
So,
Well, Uncle Tom. So he got me started with that. We first bass fished together. We rowed a
oh,
boat out of Dundee Marina. Then
okay,
then he was working. Of course, I was a kid. He bought a 7.5 Monkey Wards. Now we had a motorboat. We had
monkey.
a Montgomery Ward
Oh
7.5.
yeah,
Now we were real bass fishermen. And gosh,
yay,
darn, we go out and man, I spinner bait. I threw one for years because the first ever caught, we caught bass. We small game hunted together. We started deer hunting together. And my cousin Conway, nicknamed Hot Rod, and you might remember him from out there range. He's like 6'4", big guy, glasses. Anyway, me, him, and Uncle Tom. He tried to get all his nephews and stuff, but it really stuck with Conway. And we do this stuff together. So he would get me. Oh man, he then when I became of age and I got and 18 was the drinking age, and he got a key to my parents so he could come get me out of bed because I can't get up and we're going hunting. And we got in clubs together and waterfowl, and Conway was in the Air Force, and we were doing that, and we were deer hunting, we were bow hunting. But what happened was then, and we'll get into that again about heroes again, about me getting a bighorn bow. And I said to Uncle Tom, man, you need to get this recurve. This the way to go, man. Look, I shot every day and I got really good, Rich. And he was like,
yeah.
wow, and then Uncle Tom went, well, I said that before. And you told me about this compound and he got a recurve. So, we've been to Nebraska together. We went on a caribou hunt in Quebec together. We hunted at his cabin up in Somerset, southwestern PA there together. We bass fished together. And tragically, at 69 years
Hmm.
old, I'm not sure. I want to say about 6 years ago, Uncle Tom was killed in a car accident.
Yeah, shit.
And the shame is he was coming home from his granddaughter's wedding, and Uncle
Hmm.
Tom didn't drink a drop anymore in his life. There, he never had a drinking problem or something, but we used to partake of some bourbon, some old granddad at times and stuff, and some hunting camps and otherwise, and so he just didn't do that at all anymore. And tragically, it appears that he fell asleep, and there's guardrails, and that's a whole nother story that were approved by the National Transportation Safety Board, and then the company modified them with the squares on the end. They're supposed to peel up. Anyway, it didn't peel up. He was only had a car behind him at like 35 miles an hour, and that guardrail pierced through the car and pierced through him
I'm
and killed him.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Tragically, I got called at 3 o'clock in the morning to the scene, because close by, and Aunt Barb said, "Oh, my nephew, he's a retired trooper." But Uncle Tom was, and we were bass fishing together again. I got me a boat, and he was kind of rejuvenated with that. So, but just then I sent you a picture with you see a guy and me and
Yeah,
a big guy, and that's my Uncle Tom, and that's
yeah.
just
He
not a
will be on the.
that's a beautiful
I'm gonna
yeah
promote this next week,
yeah
because I'm a week ahead. But
right
you will see Uncle
right.
Tom, and he will be the number one picture for sure.
But he was, and I'm going to do. I've been saying this. Now I'm putting myself out here because I mentioned it to somebody else, to his widow, and I'm going to say this to you for PBS. I'm going to write an article about Uncle Tom, and the article is going to be
I hope to see it.
Uncle Tom. It's going to be uncle, friend. It's going to be friend, mentor, and hero. So,
Why don't you title it Tomcat?
well, we'll see, man. But he was.
Yeah.
He was and is a hero of mine. He did not have to sacrifice his time. He would give you the choice of spots to go. He would give you the first shot goose hunting.
Yep.
He would give you the pheasant get up here credit for, if it was who shot it. He just was man, I've never had a better friend in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm just so blessed. And I had some wonderful male role models in my life, including my dad and my dad's brothers and stuff. Just, men that, Uncle Ed, World War II, Iwo, Okinawa, Marine Corps. Real, just real, American heroes, guys, and just hardworking blue collar great guys. But
I consider you one of my mentors. Well, I do. I really do.
We're gonna have to hunt together, Rich. I think now of people that I haven't and go, man, why didn't I? And I got so
I was crazy. I was crazy years ago. I was like, I was certifiable. I'm serious.
Yeah, I didn't think you were crazy. I never thought that. You like that?
Well, there's some people at the clubhouse that would think otherwise.
No, I didn't. But you know what, Rich? And I never heard that from anybody. So,
come on now.
I'm serious. Come on. I never did.
Yes.
We had that one. We had that one year when you had that firefighter in there, and he was all drunk up. And I said something to you, and that wasn't directed at you. It was like, hey, buddy.
You don't pour lacquer thinner on a freaking burning fire and blow yourself half across the street.
That guy was crazy.
Yeah, he was different. And
he was different. He was different.
He has a permanent suntan from that, but whatever. Yeah. And he's probably listening to this. So, Bill, you know who I'm talking about. So, anyway.
That's me and Uncle Tom, man. We did a lot.
Uncle Tom, I wish I met him.
Car a lot. I wish you would have met him. He was a great guy. He was an incredible uncle. He was not just my uncle. He was my friend, my hero. And I lost Rich. My dad's brothers died young, and his parents. So terrible heart disease on that side of the family, and his brother Jimmy died at 36. And then I vaguely remember him as a really, really small child. And then my uncle Jack, who was again a prince of a guy, and my uncle Jack was my dad's. Him and my dad were the middle. My dad was the youngest, and then my uncle Jack. Then they're two older brothers. And so my uncle Jimmy fought in Korea, my uncle Ed in World War II, either in Okinawa or Iwo in the Marine Corps. And then my dad was in the Marine Corps. Uncle Jack, they turned down for flat feet, but Uncle Jack was a prince of a guy. He hunted some, and he was just, all the guys liked him, and all the women liked my Uncle Jack,
Of course.
And my Uncle Jack was a great guy. Matter of fact, this is unheard of. When my Uncle Jack passed away at 49, he worked in the tanning mills down Sparrows Point. You don't shut the mills down.
No.
Rich. They shut the mill down.
In honor of him?
In honor of my Uncle Jack for a moment of silence. They shut the mill down for 10 minutes. So.
It's emotional. I get it. I totally get it.
And I can't remember that. My point is, I can't remember ever if I told my Uncle Jack that I loved him. So
you had to have had in all those years. Come on,
I don't remember that because my Uncle Jack was a very loved his nieces and nephews, give you a hug and stuff. So I don't remember, but I can tell you this: every loved one I ever had since then, I let them know. So I'm happy to say, before my Uncle Tom passed away for years, I would give my Uncle Tom a hug and a kiss on the cheek and tell him that I loved him.
That's it, brother.
So And he knew that, when he went. And
there's not enough love.
I'll see him again. World. Me and him will hunt together again one day.
Oh, absolutely.
It won't be in this world, but we will. We'll hunt and fish together.
And there's no leases in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you hunt for free.
Keep a picture of him on the console of my bass boat, Rich, my Uncle Tom, and I'll
God bless you.
And I'll have my cousin with him. Uncle Tom's with us, and I'll rub the picture and I'll say, "Take me to him, Uncle Tom."
Brother.
So
brother.
We were to Iowa multiple times.
Oh,
he just was so again, celebrate your successes. And I didn't, and I hesitate saying this a little bit, but his son-in-laws and his one son-in-law let me know when he passed, and I didn't know this from that, but he said, Jeff, I got to tell you that me and Mark, we used to talk a little bit, Uncle Tom, he bragged about you a lot. I go, really? He goes, yeah. He thought the world of you and thought your bow hunting prowess and stuff. And he goes, and we were I got to tell you, we're a little jealous. He really, really, boasted about you. I don't know if brag's the right word, but he spoke of your accomplishments, other stuff. And so things that he didn't say to me, but I knew that, we he respected me as an outdoorsman. So yeah,
Yes.
I miss him. I miss him all the time. He's just an incredible guy. So
Yeah.
I've been blessed, and you could never repay back somebody, and you know this, that got you into this.
No.
All the joy of the places I've been, the magnificence of the outdoors, and I dare say that it put me closer in touch with God because I feel closest to Him when I'm in the outdoors. And Uncle
Absolutely.
Tom, just um, what a gift he gave me. Would I have found this without him? I don't know, Rich. I
Well,
really, really don't
think
know.
about this for a minute. Fred Bear actually said, "I'm in a tree stand. I'm 20 feet closer to God."
Yep, yep.
That
Well, there's
goes a
a.
lot. That says it all to me.
I don't think
I don't really go in tree stands anymore. Uh, the guy that got me into it is 82 years old. My late sister's husband, Bob, got me involved in bow hunting at the age of 13.
Wow.
Here
Yeah.
I am, 66, and I'm still doing it, and I still give kudos to him. He can't believe that we have a podcast. He can't believe that I've got. He's like, "What the hell did I do?" I said, "You created a monster."
Created a
And
monster.
thank you so much because it's all
Yeah.
about you, brother.
Yep. Well, and that's what I'm going to write the article about. It's going to be by and large be a thank you letter. So, and you don't know you don't know. I don't know if he realizes the impact that he had on me.
He's looking down on you
And I
right
and
now,
I and I
brother.
I've thanked him and stuff before, but you just wonder. So um, but definitely. I mean, if we're talking about heroes here, of course, and I have heroes for other reasons, but we're going to talk about from the hunting and outdoors thing. Certainly, I'm with you, buddy, Fred Bear. I mean, I don't, you know, like there's some things you broke the mold with, and this is not to knock down Pope and Young and guys before
Yeah.
that. But Fred Bear with his promotion of it, the whole thing, the iconic look, the recurve boat, the American sportsman stuff. I tell you what, I was going to see him up at Bowhunter's warehouse before up in Wellsville, and he was sick or
I
something
was
was wrong. He
there.
was getting up in
I was
age, and
there,
he
dude. I
wasn't,
got
and he
it.
didn't come. And
Yeah.
I regret, man, I wanted to meet him, Fred Bear, Fred Bear, but
Yeah.
so certainly, when I look back again, you go further back to these other guys, but Fred Bear was a guy we saw
Yeah.
when he was, American sportsman. We saw. We've seen the films of Howard Hill and stuff, and I don't, and Howard Hill probably one of the greatest archers to ever live.
Right.
I think probably pretty indisputable with the record of competitions that he won and stuff. Was incredible. But Fred, the hunting stuff, the things, it just, and it was a different time, an opportunity for him to go do that and stuff. So, if I can continue along with heroes and stuff, and I let him know earlier this year, and he really, I don't want to say he seemed dumbfounded, but he was surprised when I told Gene Wenzel what a hero he was to me. Uh, and I had the pleasure to hunt with Gene in Africa in 2012. And a friend of Gene's that I had never met, a guy named Skip Halley. And Skip was hunting with a compound and me and Gene wasn't really there to shoot much. And it was unbelievable. We mentioned hunting trips earlier. That was it was it was incredible. I just wish everybody that bow hunted could experience that. And the place ended up selling, and it was a 40, like 6 or 8,000 concession, it had a perimeter fence, but it had leopards on the place. It was,
Mm.
the game was spooky. It was incredible. And I got to spend 12 days with Gene and a guy named Skip Halley. Again,
Wow.
and Skip, what a great guy. And the thing people don't know, because Monty Browning said to me at the PBS, he said, well, Gene is really a changed man. Like he's like, I don't want to say he said he found religion, but like reborn kind of thing. And I said,
Well,
Monty,
he's been
let
through
me
a
tell you,
lot.
Monty. I said, let me tell you, Monty. I hunted with Gene in 2012. We said grace every night, prayers, day and stuff. I said, Gene said grace every night at dinner. We talked about God and faith. Uh, you know, we didn't go on and on and on about it, but we did. And that was an incredible hunting trip.
Hmm.
And so I let Gene know this year that, and I mentioned earlier, my first recurve, custom recurve was a bighorn. And a good friend of mine, Bobby Joe, uh, from childhood, his dad loaned me a recurve that
Hmm.
had man, I think it was a bear. And I think it was like a 45-pound bear. And I had
Hmm.
shot that and shot that and shot that every day. I had this big custom bighorn ordered. And of course, why did I get a custom bighorn? A bighorn, why am I going to get a bighorn? Okay, well, I read Fred's Asbel stories and all that, but no, I read Gene Wenzel's book. And if it was good
Hmm.
enough for Gene Wenzel, by God, it was good enough for me.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I wanted to emulate that. And I looked at the pictures of Gene, and I don't mean this as a knock on Gene. I said, if that guy can do it, I can do it, right? And it bolstered my confidence and stuff. And then to meet Gene and talk to him, and just a regular, real guy. And he was doing the seminars, the classic whitetails.
Yeah.
I went to Philly. I went here. I saw him at multiple ones. He invited me out to Montana. And in 85, me and my then wife went and spent hours at his house one night. His wife and kids were away somewhere. I don't know if it was some sporting thing for one of the kids, but we sat there for hours and talked to Gene with his mounts and all that. And Gene, that's another regret, Gene had said something, you ought to come on out and hunt, and man, I mean, I don't want to act like a hanger on her, but man, I should have did that. I went hunting with Gene.
Oh, yeah.
And through Gene, of course, then you get to know Barry, and then I get to know Barry over the years talking to him as just another hero. But that opened up that whole Montana thing
Oh,
for
yeah.
me with Gene and stuff. To Dick Robertson, Paul Schaefer, the
Yeah.
stories, and then personally talking to Gene about Paul. Um, Big time hero of mine, Paul Schaefer, bow hunting here. I mean, just big time hero, and hearing the stories and reading and stuff. Just so, man, I don't want to limit that to other guys and stuff that I got a lot of respect for, but these guys were like, heroes,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
I fell in love with Montana, and honestly, I almost moved to Montana
So
in
did
the
I.
80s.
I almost divorced my wife, my first wife, to go to Montana, and life had other ideas for me.
Right. Well, my
Same.
first wife was willing to go.
You and I are from the same cloth. I mean,
Yeah.
same heroes. Gene, when I saw Gene and Barry this couple weeks ago, they were like, "Hey, Rich," they never forgot me. Hey, this is the
Now,
guy, Rich Lopez, that dumped a like Miss America to go see our seminar. I did.
yeah.
She was the smoking hottest Italian chick in New Jersey. I dumped her to go see them at a college. That's how important they are to me.
Yeah.
And then I told this to my wife. She goes, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "No, you got to meet." And they told her, my wife, while we were in Indianapolis, they're like, "Your husband's crazy." And she was like, "Oh my God, really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "If we were just first dating, I would have dumped you to go see them." And here we are 40 years later,
Uh,
married.
there's some characters, man, but they're very witty and really sharp witted and
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
observant. They're
Yep.
highly observant and stuff, and so learn things from them. And they're very, they joke around different things, but really have a lot of humility and stuff in that, and look up to
Big
guys. And
time.
to hear Barry, and Barry spent more time with Paul Schaefer than Gene in the talk, and I really love to sit down with Barry more. Would have had more time to sit down.
Well,
Barry, I want to
funny.
hear some stories from you, but I
Oh,
want
yeah.
I want to hear some more. I want to hear some more about Paul Schaefer.
Oh,
That's
for
what I want to
sure.
hear about,
Absolutely. Dude, he was
because they
amazing.
said, and I think it was a quote from Barry, maybe it might have been a quote from Gene, but they said they're without a doubt, Paul Schaefer is one of the greatest bow hunters that ever walked the face of the earth
I agree.
in any time.
He
So
he was an animal.
yeah, so those obviously my Uncle Tom, nobody's going to trump my Uncle Tom, but I'm a big Gene Wenzel disciple of his reading. And I told Gene earlier this year, I said, and I told him about the bighorn. Yeah, for you, Gene, I said, you've been you're a hero to me, bow hunting hero. And I really looked up to you and learned. He goes, really? And he seemed literally surprised that I was telling him this.
He's moved by
Like,
that.
no, Gene,
Yep.
I like learn so much, and not just about learning, because some of the stuff that he would say, he's learned is not true, that was, I'm going to say speculation, but what he believed in that story. But the enthusiasm, what I got from him was a belief. I can do this. I can do this. I believe this. And then Fred Asbell too. I don't want to shortchange Fred. I read Bowhunter magazine. Fred Asbell. That's how I learned to shoot a recurve. I shoot instinctively, but I don't snap shoot. I come back. I draw and hold. I might hold for 5 seconds. I probably held 5 seconds on that buck I killed this year with my shoulder like that. I mean, I'd make sure it was settled up and stuff. Never been a snap shooter. And if you watch Fred, he shot much quicker than I did, but I learned what he was talking about, and I literally stared a spot. And now if I look down at my arrow and stuff, that's a problem for me. I know you're seeing it in your periphery. We won't get into whole shooting whether you're not. Of course you're aiming, but it's and I want to say it's instinct because you're seeing in your peripheral vision, just like driving your car. You don't have to be staring down the road right in front of you, but in your peripheral vision, you're seeing it in your brain functions, and you can do that. And that's how I aim. I don't use the point of the arrow and stuff. But so, Fred Asbell, I mean, and that whole group of people in that age, in that time frame and stuff for me was what I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't read it enough. I couldn't get enough. I was absorbed the magazines, the books, Fred's books, the stories. Fred Asbell was quite a storyteller too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and enjoyed his writing and stuff, along with some of the gun hunters writings, obviously, you could go back to that were really, O'Connor and other guys.
Yeah. Going back to sports field.
That were really told the stories and stuff. Really good.
Sure. So let me move on here. Favorite game animal? Don't tell me it's a whitetail.
Yeah, it's a whitetail.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whitetail.
I live and breathe and God.
Well, first of all, we live in whitetail country.
Sure.
We were born and raised in whitetail country. It's what's accessible to us. I like hunting other stuff? Like I said, the African trip was incredible. Over 12 days, I killed 10 big game animals with my recurve. It was just unbelievable. The first night, baboons coming in, I think they were vervet monkeys. The bird life was incredible. Out west, I love it out west. Like I said, I almost moved there. I really seriously considered. I had job offers. I was a young trooper. I had Rich Humphreys was the colonel of the Idaho State Police right there. Jeff, the training you got and stuff, and already a couple years experience, I'm telling you right now, I got a car waiting for you, got you here, and then the guy from Nevada was like, wait a minute here, man. Because I worked a CARE conference, all 50 state police agencies, highway patrol. Of course, Maryland's not highway patrol, but state police. And I worked a criminal patrol when I did it. And then as a detective investigating murders and rapes and robberies and all that other stuff. So, but I give serious thought. And I talked to my then wife, my first wife, but my family was so close, Rich. I just couldn't. Yeah. Mom, dad, my brothers, sisters, my aunts, uncles, cousins.
Tough decision.
But I love it out there. And I'm surprised since I retired. I've had some issues with some tendon ruptures and stuff, and I don't want to get into statin drugs, cholesterol, and tendinopathies and tendon ruptures and stuff because you really get me worked up. But I urge people to take that I say that as a public service announcement. Please do your research on that. If you're hurting really bad, or you're getting trigger fingers, or your Achilles tendon suddenly ruptures, you better look into this stuff. Anyway, I really want to get out and spend some more time out there. Love it out there. And I got Danny, my buddy's got a drift boat. I got a guy I met from Jersey. You're from Jersey originally. I meet a guy, Joe Chalupa. Here's a quick hunting story. I'm out there by myself. I pack into the Lee Metcalf Wilderness. I set up camp, right? My buddy Danny worries about me, man. There were grizzlies up there. And I had one paw in my tent one night and had tracks in the snow, and it was a new backpacking tent, and it tore the fly a little bit. And I joke with people and said, when I saw that, I was freaking pissed then. I put my knife in my teeth and I started tracking that son of a bitch down, man. He's going to pay. Anyway, I'm set up, and all of a sudden I hear a noise. I go, what the hell was that? They were back in all these blowdowns, not real far from me, like a couple hundred yards. They didn't want nobody to know they were camped there. Instead, this nice campsite with a fire ring, and you can walk 200 yards down the trail and get water, and they're there. And it's a guy, Joe Chalupa, his buddy
what
James,
a name.
and another guy, Joe Chalupa he lives in Ennis, Montana, and Jamie and I forget the other guy's name, and the other guy ended up having a bum knee. So it's how I got to be friends with them. We talked. They go, "You're here by yourself?" I go, "Yeah, man, backpack up." Okay. So their buddy had a bum knee, and they were going out and getting him out of there later. They'd been there a while, and I said, "Look, I got to go out and get some more food and stuff." And no, this was I'd been in a while, and I carried the guy's backpack. I can't let him carry that, man. Look at him, he's limping, and it's going to be terrible. We're going down a mountain for 5 miles, and they just thought, like, wow, man, like you would have did that. Most people would do that. But anyway, became friends with him. So Joe's got a drift boat. I need to call Joe. He lives right down on the Madison, right across the street from the Madison River. So I should go there and do some fly fishing, man. Get a drift boat, do some trout fishing. Anyway, almost decided to go there and stuff, but didn't do it. So I love it out west, but whitetails, man, they're incredible. They're just and I did, elk are really cool, but you went through a stretch in Montana with wolves, and I'm telling you, buddy, it was for a while there. Honestly, it got hard to see a track. And I always thought if I hunt really hard for 10 days, 10, 12 days, I'm going to get me a good crack at one. But man, you weren't. It got really bad. But I kept pulling, and it gets discouraging. It's improved. The elk have adapted. They've improved. They don't hang out in the middle of the meadow so far away from the trees where they can evade the elk and stuff, it seems. But and I'm going to go back. I didn't this year. I almost did, but it didn't this year. So let's get back some serious rucking and hiking. So love it out there. But whitetails, buddy, whitetails are just incredible. They're cunning. They live right around where people live, and people don't even know they're there. People where I hunt on a property, they go, "Wow, I showed them a picture of a couple bucks." I didn't know there were bucks. Yeah, I mean, I hunted a little place once, and a lady goes, "I didn't know there were bucks here." I killed this.
They have to be.
She's like, "Man, you're kidding me." So, yeah, they are, and the mistake a lot of hunters make is don't give them enough credit when they get old. They just don't. They don't tolerate it, man. They don't tolerate, and they're living around people, and yet they know the difference. They know, and I believe they literally know the property owners that walk around. They got some old logging road things cut through. I believe they literally, if the wind's blowing to the deer, I believe they literally identify them by smell and know the difference of them and me. And I'm there with bad intentions, and it's a different deal. So you can go in and really booger it up before it gets good. And you don't need to do any more than listen to Don Higgins from out there in Illinois and stuff and see what
love Don.
Well, and you see what Don does, and Don don't go in and disturb his stuff before November, fringe stuff. And I try to tell guys.
Don and I are longtime friends.
Yeah, and I've never talked to Don. I've watched some of his stuff, and I know, and you can't argue with his success. And of course, I'm a traditional bow hunter.
Have you seen my podcast with him?
I haven't, but I'm gonna look that up.
Okay.
I've seen podcasts with Don before, and I watched them on, and I found it very interesting. And the listen and stuff, and I'm going to give Gene a call here one day. And now, Gene, when we talk more about life and stuff and that, But and Barry call him. I think Barry would just sit and talk hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting. And Gene and them are getting up there, and Gene obviously with Donna and the stuff's gone through with
sure, yeah, I get it. But what's funny, what's ironic about that is like last year, Barry would not do my podcast. Now, all of a sudden, hey, I want to come on to your podcast. Thank God for Gene, because Gene said, hey, man, you got to talk to this guy. Because I interviewed him for my website. And he was on my website. So I was like, why would you not do it? And now we're cool. Remember Peter Iacovazzi? Friend of Gene's and Barry?
What's that?
He's Peter Iacovazzi.
I remember the name. I'm trying to picture him.
He's a wrestler and a model, and I guess he teaches, how do you call that?
Self-defense?
Yeah, something like that with police and all that.
Okay, defensive tactics.
Massive bow hunter. I mean, I remember him in Gene's books. I'm like, I got to get this guy on here. Right. Gene says, oh, no, he ain't going to come on your podcast. Well, guess what? We're talking May 19th. So,
cool. Good.
Yeah,
good.
It's going to be badass. So there's a lot of people that are coming on.
I'm glad Barry's coming on.
Oh, yeah.
I think Barry will just sit and talk hunting and hunting and hunting. And
that's what's great about it, because I just let him talk. So, I mean, when I had Gene on, it was 3 hours. I said,
right?
Gene, I got to go to the men's room, just talk. So, yeah, I took off and
Well,
went to the bathroom and came back. He
yeah,
was still talking.
yeah,
So,
yeah. They can talk for
all right. So,
sure.
favorite method of hunting: tree stand, ground.
Yeah, no, it's tree stand.
Okay.
And the reason that's my favorite method is straight up success. Not that I don't believe and and when I say ground blind, if I do ground blind thing, and I've hunted in blinds a little bit. I killed a real white antelope. I think I sent you a picture of it, Montana, on a do-it-yourself thing. Most
Yeah.
all my hunts have been do-it-yourself, and I killed that out of a pop-up line. I don't like being in pop-up lines. I don't feel like I'm in the outdoors. I don't know how those guys hunt in those shooting houses and
Hmm.
like it. I don't. Again, it's I guess I don't feel like I'm in the outdoors. I like to be able to look around me. I like to sense things. I like to hear uh, things. So if I did a ground blind, it would be a natural ground blind. But honestly, I can't remember the last time I was in one. Rich, I think there's something really uh, um, I think the success is better, and I don't think the deer really look up and stuff now. Guys that don't brush in their stands or move around, and I think if guys knew how much deer saw them in their tree stand with a little movement from far away, they would cry. I
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
believe that they would cry and go
For sure.
like, just like when they say bass fishing. If they knew how many times their lure went by a bass they didn't need it, how many bass were around, I think guys would cry. But
Hmm.
I say that from a guy that sat in a tree stand with lit binoculars up just to look around and look down through the brush and trees and hardwoods and look and see, in this pretty thick stuff and laurel around, and look at 150, 200 yards away and see a deer just pegged
Staring at you.
there. And I'm
Yeah.
going, and so I brush all my tree stands in. I got conduit tubing I cut off. I weld
Yeah.
a lag on the back of them. I stagger them in, and I put oak branches that'll last for a couple years. Leaves will hang on it behind me to break it up. They look up, so it's not. It's not. It used to be a real advantage, and you remember that years ago, Rich. We'd look, and you just didn't look up much. Like turkeys. I got turkeys on the property, and I could be in a tree, and the turkeys aren't. And it kind of blows my mind because you think birds of prey down on turkeys, and they walk by and you're moving and turning and looking and they're not looking up at me. But no, deer look up, man. They're looking in trees and looking for danger, and they're attuned
Yeah.
into that. But what I like about it, what I like about a tree stand is I get it brushed up with camo, my visibility I see, and um, hopefully spot them and a hunt. And it depends. It's pretty thick, but um, I like picking that spot, man. If you feel like you're right, aha. And
Oh, yeah.
when they walk right where you're supposed to, where you want them, I'm looking for pinches. I'm looking for something to lay down. I'm looking for inside corners. I'm looking for something else that'll hold them here, and I set it up. And if you can find a right tree and you brush it up in and all that. And I don't know if you know Roger Rothar, if you've seen, he did some articles. I think it was
Oh, yeah.
PBS.
Yeah.
And Roger was another hero. I should
Well,
mention Roger.
actually, Roger's son was the one and only individual that actually came to my house and we did a podcast together.
Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Roger was just man. What a nice,
Yeah.
low key, humble, but observant, sharp, smart guy,
He
man.
was a
Roger
killer,
Rothar. But
man.
did
He
you
was a
see what he
killer.
did? Yes, but he was doing them ladder stands with the screen netting thing all around it and shooting through the holes because he knew they can't. Then the movement, see me up here and stuff. And Roger
Yeah.
was doing that. So Roger Rothar, and you remember when he had that dust up and he got in trouble? He had that buck
Yeah.
in work at 6 points. No, Gene Wenzel. Gene told me before, and I knew this from Roger. Roger was as straight arrow as you're going to get, man. Right? There's no way. And man, he took a bum rap for that people because they
Wow.
just wanted to take shots at the guy. But
Well, here's what
so
happens
Roger
when
was
you
another.
start
Roger
killing
was
big bucks. Guess what? You're on the radar.
another.
You're in
Yeah,
the
I
yeah.
know.
So
People.
I
I've
don't
heard.
put animals in the books. I
Yep.
don't advertise my bucks. I got tons
Right.
of them, book bucks in here.
Yeah.
No way. I don't want to draw attention.
Yeah, yeah. So you're like me. I've thought about it, and I've never entered. I've never entered one in a record book, and I'm not opposed to record books.
No, either am I.
But guys, need the personal recognition, hunt for myself to do that and stuff. But anyway, uh,
People who know me
that's
know
the
what I
stuff
do.
and do. So tree stands, picking that spot, knowing it, and thinking, I'm right. I got it. Here he
Yeah.
is. Here he comes. Last year, that deer, here he comes. Now he didn't come exactly where he was supposed to. He stepped on the other side a little bit, just a little bit further than I wanted. But so you look for the right pinch, you do the right thing, you play the wind right, you time it right.
Yep.
There's a lot that goes into it, and I tell people as you get older and stuff. And I say this, and I'll bring up the bass fishing too, since we mentioned that, and the hunting too. And when you go to different places now, I got a place I've hunted for a long time, but I used to lay in bed all the time for an hour, 2 hours, scheming, thinking, where can I kill one? Where can I kill him? Here, what, set up? How can I approach this? Wait a minute, I want to come in and Gene kind of hammered this home years ago and put that. Yeah, a lot of guys think about their approach. They don't think about getting out and they're boogering their stuff up, And guys will walk in, and you talk to guys. They've been hunting a long time, and they'll walk in and they're going to hunt deer. They expect to come to their left, and yet the wind's blowing from right to left, and they're walking right by this the whole time they go in. I'm going,
Man, it's done. It's blown out.
Seriously?
Yep.
Seriously? So they underestimate their nose. You can't defeat their nose.
No.
This scent lock, this ozonics and all that. Yeah, right.
No.
I tell guys, and they go, no. And I won't mention the name of this guy. He's a little bit of goof. No, I got this, and it's dead downwind, and they can't. And I said, you know why they didn't smell you dead downwind? Because the wind never got to them. They underestimate. I got a spot, and the sun will come up behind me, and I routinely have deer come 50, 75 yards behind me. You know why? Because the thermals are pulling up by then with the sun and stuff with the wind. I can't tell people that's because the wind didn't get to their nose.
I bought into that scent lock crap years ago, and I remember sitting in my tree stand, and I let out a big ass fart. I was like, oh, if I can smell it, guess what?
Yeah, right.
There's no scent lock here.
Hey, and it didn't diminish it at all, did it?
No.
So it would take so much carbon. They do places.
I did that
carbon,
too. Yeah,
but you can't have enough of it. Barrels of it, filter and water to try to keep odor down from that stuff.
Yeah, just play the wind, guys.
Play the wind. Just play the wind. Do the thing. So. Anyway, I'm a tree stand guy, man. I get up, the visibility, the stuff. I like it, but I am a big proponent of brushing them in.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Totally agree, Jeff. So last question. If you're going to take yourself back in time, where would you be and why?
If I could take myself back in time, and we talking about like all time, like where you could be born, live, hunt.
Yep.
If I could take myself back in time, honestly, I'm going to honestly say that I would probably go back to the 70s, and I would be in Montana, and I would meet the all those guys, the Wenzel boys, the Schaefer, Bob Savage, another guy, right? Bob Savage, maybe get to meet Fred Bear back when I don't need to tell you the cost of some of these trips, Rich, and where they make it where you can't go and do them on your own. And that's probably what I would do. And I know a lot of people would think back before then, but I think that was pretty darn good, and I tell you, buddy, I went back first time, maybe early 90s, like Iowa. Oh my God, man. And I love Iowa as another place. I considered when I retired buying a place in Iowa and living in Iowa for 6 months and a day a year and to hunt. I mean, and I got points for a tag there, and I didn't literally put in because the EHD hit them hard, but it is. And I got that from Gene because Gene told me that, he said, imagine the most ideal whitetail habit in your mind you can imagine, and that's Southeast Iowa.
Yeah.
And in the first year I went, and it was unbelievable. And I've killed 160 some incher and 171, 72 inch buck in Iowa. And so, man, and as I get older, maybe the mountains say, but we'll see what happens when I get turned loose here from the shoulder in May the 5th back in the gym and get some hiking going about the mountains and stuff. But so I would say back then, because I'd still like to go to Alaska. I got the Brian Burkhart, Monty Browning, Mike Mitten. There's another guy. Okay. And And Mike, yeah, and Mike is
He's a
uh,
beast.
Mike's Mike's a special guy. I talked to Mike. They went to Africa a year after I went, and then they had a bunch of rain and stuff. And I talked to him a little bit at PBS. It's Mike's. Mike's pretty quiet, reserved guy, but man, yeah, and I'd like to do that. But honestly, at this point, I'd like to have a buddy to do it with, man.
Well,
I would like if, again, getting in the gym thinking, if I stay within half a mile, I can get the moose mood. But, the Bears, after the way the Bears have gotten in Montana with people getting mauled and the pulling of the tent with all the scent there and stuff and tracks in it and things. I'm
well,
like, man,
maybe we'll do something together because I can still kick some ass at
okay.
66.
We could
Yeah,
do that, but we've
I,
already talked about, Dakota pheasant hunting. We've talked about Mexico. I'm getting ready, buddy. I've squirreled away a little money from things, and I got some things I want to do here. So,
yeah,
I got some trips I want to take with the wife, but I got some
yeah,
bow
right
hunting
on, brother. That's what
things I
I'm
want to
doing.
do.
I'm going to take
Yeah.
care of the wife, and I'm going back to hunting. So
Okay.
I've been traveling like a maniac the last couple of months. So we have one more trip this weekend. We're going to Siesta Key to visit her best friend since kindergarten.
Wow. That's
Siesta
special.
Key, Siesta Key, which is the best beach it's in the top 10 of the best beaches in the world. So we're
Really.
going to hang out with them for the weekend. And then when we
Very
come
nice.
back, I told her I'm detaching from any domestic stuff and I'm going back into my hunting mode.
There you go.
And there you go. I
There
will see
you
you
go.
in a couple of weeks.
I will see you, my
And
friend.
I'm looking forward to that. So I want to
I am
thank you
too.
again on behalf of the Drop Time Traditions podcast for coming on. Folks, longtime friend. I can't say enough about you. I love you. I miss you. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. People, this is a public service message. Take care of each other. Love each other. Respect each other. And if you see something, say something. There's a lot of mental health issues out there, and we need to stay in check. So that's pretty much it, brother. So I will see you in a couple of weeks. How's that sound?
I'll see you in a couple of weeks, Rich. It was a
All right.
pleasure. You take care, my friend. God
Thank
bless.
thank you, and God bless you. And say hi again to your wife. Thank you.
Will do, Rich. Same,
Bye bye.
same here. Same
All right.
hi to yours. All
Good
right,
night.
buddy. Bye.